Hello, welcome back to Earth in this video we'll cover the Croatian presidential election that was held in between 2019 and 2020. It was a two-round election and now both rounds are finished. Now, the president is elected on a two-round system, as I just said. If no candidate gets a majority, and that's what happened, it goes to a runoff. Now, the role is mostly ceremonial. It does have some limited powers. It's the formal head of state, even though it isn't the head of the government, but it's kind of like a lot of presidents in Central Europe, where they aren't the most powerful figure, but they do have some say, especially in foreign affairs. Now, in the first round, it was Zoran Milanovic came first. Now, Milanovic was 2007 to 16 president of his party. That's the Social Democratic Party, the kind of normal European big social democratic party that you have in most countries in Europe. Now, this meant that from 2007 to 11 and 2016, it was leader of the opposition in the legislature. And 2011 to 16, he was prime minister, which is as I said, the more important role of the two, more important than president. Now, as well as being supported by his own SDP, his campaign was also supported by a few other parties, like the Croatian Peasant Party, which is agrarian, a single-issue party for pensioners called the Croatian Party of Pensioners, and the regionalist alliance of Primorje Gorski Kotar, which was quite helpful in that region because they gather a lot of votes. The Liberal People's Party, reformists, the Social Democratic Party called the Democrats, the Istrian regionalist Istrian Democratic Assembly. That endorsement was quite important because in Istria, that region was where he got the biggest share of his vote. Well, pro rata, I should say, not the most votes total, but as a percentage of the population there. The Democratic Socialists, Croatian Labourist Labour Party, the Party of Pensioners, the Liberal Civic Liberal Alliance, and the Medimurje Democratic Assembly, Power, People's and Civic Engagement Party, and the Green Party, Green Alternative. So a lot of left-wing and also centrist support got around him. Now, celebrities, Vlatka Pokros and Ava Grabatic, the latter of which was actually a candidate who didn't get enough signatures to be on the balance, backed him. And even a general from the army, who's quite right-wing, Branimir Glavaš, also vote him. Now, he got 562,783 votes, which is 29.55%. So he came first. He didn't come first resoundingly, but he did come first. Now, in second was Kolinda Grabar-Kitarovic, who is the incumbent. She was the European Affairs Minister from 2003 to 5. This post was merged with Foreign Minister. She stayed on until 2008. After that, until 2011, she was Ambassador to the United States. She then went from the Croatian government to NATO, where she became Assistant Secretary General for Public Diplomacy to 2014. But then she ran for president, and in 2015 she won, becoming president. She's actually the first incumbent president to come second in the first round. But coming second was enough in the first round. Now, the Bandic Milan 365 Labour and Solidarity Party, which is actually Social Democratic backed her, but also right-wing parties like the Croatian Nationalist Party called Croatian Party of Rights, Dr. Ante Starčević, and the Christian Democratic Croatian Demo-Christian Party. She got endorsements from Army General Ljubo Ćesić-Rojs. Now, military figures are important in Croatia because they had a war quite recently in the 1990s. Historian Josip Jurčević, publicist Zdravko Tomac, who's actually a former SDP member, sports agent Zdravko Mamic, and legendary Croatian football manager, handball player Lino Servar, who was actually an MP in her party, the HDZ, from 2008 to 11. Now, she was in the HDZ for most of her life. That's a Christian Democratic Party called the Croatian Democratic Union, but the president has to become independent when they take office. However, the HDZ did endorse her as a candidate. Zdravko Tomac, the publicist, backed him. TV host Oliver Mlakar and former handball Olympic gold medalist Igor Vori. Now, those endorsements, the incumbency, whatever, did get her into the second round. 507,628 votes, 26.65%, which was enough to qualify. But quite interestingly was the third place candidate, which was an independent called Miroslav Skoro. He used to be in the HDZ. He was MP for the 4th District in 2008, but was mostly known as a singer, and he did get a lot of endorsements from the right: the Croatian nationalist, Croatian Conservative Party, Social Conservative, Croatian Growth, Conservative Bridge of Independent lists, and even other anti-establishment lists like the Green List and the Independent List Bureau. Eurovision singer Jacques Hudek, who actually made one of my favourite Eurovision songs, I think it was in 2017, endorsed him. Actor Vedran Milkota and comedian Zelko Pervan endorsed him, as did Ruza Tomasic, president of the HSPAS from 2009 to 14. And the HSPAS, the Croatian Party of Rights, backed Grabar Kitarovic, but Tomasic, who used to be its president, actually backs Skoro, who was the anti-establishment right-wing candidate, because the incumbent president was obviously on the establishment right. Now Tomasic is now on the HKS. He was an MP from 2003 to 7 and 2011 to 13, but has been an EP since 2013 in the European Parliament in Brussels. TV pundit Velimir Bujnek, actors Bozidar Ralic, Nada Gacic, Livakovic and Antonia Sola, as well as academic Ivan Aralika also got behind him. There are some military figures, former Major General Zelko Glasnovic, Minister of Culture in 2016 Zlatko Hasanbegovic, who was also a Zagreb Assembly member since 2017 and an MP since 2016, backed him. He also used to be in the HDZ. Journalist Marko Ljubic, a former admiral, Davor Domazet-Loso and historian Boris Havel also backed him. Theatre expert Anna Lederer, Professor Tomislav Sunic, Assistant Professor Vlatka Vukalic, politicians Stjepan Tudman and Carlos Starcevic all also backed him. So there was anti-establishment support, mostly on the right, but what's interesting is how this affected the campaign. Now, there were some minor parties, and I'll get into the results of them in a bit. So Grabar Kitarovic was kind of seeing what was happening, and this kind of forced her hand. Despite being a more or less establishment conservative, she was kind of forced into being a bit more inflammatory, making nationalist statements, harking back to the war. Now, that is not always the best idea, especially in a country that used to be in war. It's still quite deep, but has recently joined the European Union. Like, very few people actually want war. War is seen as a bad thing, sometimes a necessary evil, and this was quite handy for Milanovic, because he could say, well, hold on, my pitch is just make us a normal European country like France or Germany. There's less corruption, because in Croatia, despite being in the EU, corruption is high for EU standards. Poverty is higher than most places in the EU. He said he wants an independent judiciary. And this strategy worked because any liberal or left-wing support is going to go behind that message, especially without another strong left-wing candidate on the ballot. While the right was split in the first round, especially, the left was pretty much united behind him, and quite a bit of the centre did as well. Now, there were other candidates. Mislav Kolakusic, who's been an MP since 2019, and he's just an independent. He ran as well. He was endorsed by 3 parties: Human Shield, which is a populist party; Youth Action, which is progressive; and Let's Change Croatian. He got 111,916 votes, which is 5.87%. I believe he was a lawyer or judge or something like that. And yeah, that's a respectable figure for an independent. And now 5th was an interesting bloke. He's called Dario Jurichan. He ran as a protest against the mayor of Zagreb with a stunt which included legally changing his name to the actual mayor. I can't remember what his name is, but he legally changed his name to that of the mayor. And he ran on a protest. He got way more votes in the city of Zagreb than anywhere else, where he got nearly 9% of the vote. Now, he got 87,883 votes, 4.61% overall, but 8.67% in the city of Zagreb. Sixth was also an independent, Dalija Oreskovic. Now, she was president of the Conflict of Interest Commission from 2013 to 2018, just if you have to investigate if people have conflicts of interest. Now, in the party of anti-corruption, development and transparency, but she ran as an independent. She got 55,163 votes, 2.89%. On another right-wing candidate, Ivan Pernar, who's been MP for the 6th district since 2016, ran for a souverainist party, just called the Party of Ivan Pernar. Which is an interesting thing to name your party after yourself. 44,057 votes from 2.31%. Now, Milanovic represented the moderate establishment left. There was a far left candidate, which is perhaps to be expected in a former Yugoslavian state. Katarina Pejovic from the Democratic Socialist Workers' Front. She was also endorsed by the Communist Socialist Labour Party of Croatia and the Social Democratic New Left. She got a lot of left-wing celebrity support. Singer Liliana Nikolovska, I butchered that name, sorry about that. Author Ivica Pluteniaka, philosopher Nadezhda Sasinovic, composer Alexander Kabilyo, journalist Tomislav Jakic, author Drago Plechko, anthropologist Ines Prika, Zoran Restovic, who's president of a regional Antifa group, guitarist Siad Lipovac, researcher Krešimir Sučević Mederal, musician Alan Marin, trade unionist Boris Serovek, designer Boris Cook, philosopher Ankica Chakadic, author Borivoj Radakovic, literary critic Velimir Viskovic, musician Franci Blaskovic, film director Marina Banishevich, comedian Davor Jurkovic, musician Mario Lipovshek Batifiasa, there we go, linguist Rada Boric, trade unionist Sinisha Milicic, publicist Viktor Ivancic, writer Vlado Bulic, musician Jorge Ducic, artists Nemanja Svijanovic and Slaven Tolj, musician Dražen Teresa and DJ Slaven Balan. You can see a lot of political, celebrity, artistic figures backed her, and she was the main candidate on the radical left. However, she only got 21,387 votes, 1.12%. There were a few other candidates that did even worse than that. Economist Dejan Kovic ran for the conservative liberal Croatian Social Liberal Party. He just got 18,107 votes, or 0.95%. The former president of the Croatian nationalist Croatian Party of Rights from 1993 to 2009, Anto Dapic, who was an MP from 1992 to 2009, and mayor of Osijek, which is quite a large city in Croatia, from 2005 to 2007, again in 2009. He ran for the Democratic Alliance of National Renewal, getting 4,001 votes, that's just 0.21%, and Nedjeljko Babic ran on a regional platform for the Croatian Party of all Kakavians, Kajvakians and Shtokavians, getting 3,014 votes, that's 0.15%. He came last, and the majority of his votes came from one area. He got 666. He got 1.19% of the population in Krapina Zagorje, despite getting 0.15% nationally. So that's the results. Now, just in the first round, before we go to the second round, you can see a few things. So, SDP members overwhelmingly voted for Milanovic, and HDZ members overwhelmingly voted for Grabar-Kitarovic, as to be expected. Or I should say HDV and SDP voters. Voters of all other parties voted for Skoro in large numbers, and hardly any voted for Milanovic or Grabar-Kitarovic. Now, education, people with just primary education voted for Grabar-Kitarovic mostly. As it was, the better your education, the more likely you were to vote for Milanovic, and the less likely for Grabar-Kitarovic. Skoro kind of got good numbers of votes either way. Now, for age, it's interesting. Among most voters, especially 60-plus voters, Milanovic was ahead. But Skoro was ahead amongst 18 to 29 voters, which perhaps more likely to be anti-establishment. Both men and women voted for both candidates, all three candidates, although men were a bit more likely to vote for Skoro and a bit less likely to vote for Milanovic than women. So you'd expect maybe that as Skoro is right-wing and he got a lot of support, if you combine Grabar-Kitarovic and Skoro voters in the first round, you would actually get a majority. You'd get more than 51% of the votes. And if this was two candidates, they'd win. But actually, Skoro said that he'd spoil his ballot. And indeed, in the second round, spoilt ballots nearly quadrupled. In fact, yeah, they quadrupled, more than that. And he said that in the second round he wasn't going to vote, and a lot of people, well, he'd spoiled his ballot, and a lot of people followed suit with that. Now, of course, there were other candidates, but it was actually Milanovic that won. So it's a good start to the year for the European left, the European mainstream left, I should say, who have taken a bit of a battering as of late. Milanovic got 1,034,389 votes. That's 52.67%. And Kolinda Grabar-Kitarovic got 929,488 votes, 47.33%. So Milanovic will become the 5th president of Croatia in February. And yeah, that is kind of, well, it's a big surprise for Grabar-Kitarovic, a bit of a kick in the teeth for especially the HDZ as a party, who run the Premiership and are taking a bit of a clobbering. Because while they have their natural enemies on the left, they're now getting a bit taken away from them from the right, and their attempt to pander to them, the more radical right and more nationalist right, didn't work. Now, Milanovic, he kind of scraped through. Many saw him as the least bad option. He got the least amount of votes for a winner in both the first and second round. But Grabar-Kitarovic got the least amount of votes for an incumbent. However, it does show that the European message does kind of work. Anti-EU sentiment isn't that common there, and most people want to give it a shot. And the idea of just being a normal country that kind of puts the war in the past and gets to work, it did go well. And as I said, for kind of social democrats in Europe who have experienced a lot of PASOKification, you see parties like the Irish Labour Party, they're on a bit of a bounce back. You see that they've got regained government in Spain. They're doing well in Portugal, and yeah, this is a good result for them, and a good result for the party in Croatia as well. Now, the next election for Parliament will be held later this year, and this might be a bit of a setback for them. If you look at the opinion polls for that election, the HDZ are ahead, but all these polls were taken before the election because pollsters' interest has now changed, obviously. to the presidential election. I wonder if that will have an effect. The HDZ runs the government under Andrej Plenković, and that probably won't bode well for him. That's my view of the result. If you liked my video, then please give it a like. If you didn't, then please give it a dislike, show what you think. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see these videos more, and leave a comment what you think about the election, what you think about the result, why you think Milanovic won, and why the right lost despite seemingly getting a lot of support, why they couldn't unify around a single candidate, and whether it's going to be a permanent damaging factor for the HDZ that they can't seem to unite the right-wing voters. Now, that's the end of this video, but I will be making some videos quite shortly, because there's a few elections coming up. There's an election in Taiwan, probably the most notable this month, but there's a few other countries where they're having elections, such as Peru and Italy. They're having some regional elections, so you'll get to see some videos on them from me, and they will have preview and review videos. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.